Hey everyone, as you come on
Hello.
in, welcome, welcome. It is Banner and Backbone. I'm Nick Perro with my good friend and co-host Ellie Leonard,
Hello.
and we're here for Powerful Voices, um, which is a series we're putting together on Banner and Backbone, uplifting powerful voices, survivors of any sort of abuse and traumas that need a platform or want a platform to be able to get their voices out and heard and tell the truth and share the truth and share. Um, we want to provide a space for people to be able to to share their experience and the truth and not, not be attacked for doing so. Um, and not be hated for doing so. And I think one of the best examples of getting the truth out there right now is the Epstein birthday book. And Ellie, you have been
Mhm.
doing a super huge dive into that. And I pretty much want to hand it over to you. And
Okay.
just for some couple, I know we only got you for about 15, 20 minutes. After this, everyone, please join Ellie with Zev Shalev. Right after this, it's going to be an incredible interview. Both of them are amazing investigative muckrakers and journalists. And I've had the chance to get to know both of them quite a bit over the last couple weeks. And please follow both and go support them at their next show. So Ellie, let's get some highlights though before you have to
Okay.
leave us for an even
Yeah.
bigger deal. Is let's see what's up with this Epstein birthday book right now.
Yeah. So, as probably I'm guessing most people know by now, I'm a transcriber by trade. So, I normally transcribe audio interviews or video interviews. That's kind of pretty typical. I rarely get to transcribe handwritten letters. Every once in a while, I'll get a handwritten letter project. I enjoy them. I love looking at writing and trying to figure out what someone's trying to say, especially if it's very faint. It was written in pencil, their handwriting is very poor or messy. I find it to be a really kind of fun and interesting puzzle. And then you kind of look for things that look the same. If you don't know what a word says, you look below to see if they wrote that same word again and what is it in context. And so that's what I did. I went through and I transcribed the entire birthday book, which is 238 pages. A lot of it is pictures. It was a big project, but it wasn't a huge project. It was just more really trying to figure out, especially with his parents and his buddies, right? His like there's this pack of 4 guys that he hung out with in Brooklyn as a teenager and kind of digging through their letters. So it was interesting because this birthday book is not written it's not written with the imagination of there ever being a sex trial. So you have a bunch of very wealthy men being very brazen and very proud of the things that they do with women and how they treat women and how they talk to women and creating a lot of these kind of fictional stories about, you know, telling a woman to take off her shirt and holding a knife to her and like, you know, just really awful stories that they're fictionalizing, but it's like I'm not out there fictionalizing stories about, raping children. Like I feel like the average person probably isn't doing that. Um, and so I think the biggest takeaway, there was a couple big takeaways, but one of the bigger takeaways that I haven't really dived into as much is you have this subsect of women who worked for Jeffrey Epstein as his assistants, who are kind of these young, probably started as young underage girls, um, but never really figured it out that what he was doing to them wasn't okay. They never stopped thinking that the gifts he was giving them and the travel and the attention, they never came to a point where they realized, oh my gosh, he's abusing me. And it's really interesting because they will talk about, and an example I give is Sarah Kellen. They will talk about she as his assistant, these things that he's doing to her and taking her places and all the silly little things that he does that are like little sexual things. And I and you could hear everything that has happened to all these abuse victims, and yet she didn't realize that that was abuse, and at least at the time that she was writing this, she didn't realize that it was abuse. She was still appreciating it. She was still thinking that somebody was giving her something extra special, all this extra special attention. And there's this really interesting idea that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but it's this idea of victims becoming the abusers over time. So you have, I think it was four women. Sarah Kellen was one of them, and I don't remember the names of the others, but they were given immunity in the Epstein trial because it was likely that they took part in some level of abuse. But they also probably started out as underage abuse victims. And you hear this kind of Ponzi scheme idea from a lot of the girls who were abused of I was abused and then he started paying me to find other girls to be abused and I was telling them how to give massages and things like that. And that has kept a lot of women from coming forward because they think, "Oh my gosh, am I an abuser?" I remember doing this because I was told to as a child and I learned how to do it. Was I actually an abuser and not just a victim? And I think that has kept a lot of women from coming forward. And my guess is there's many more women just in his time in New York. I think there's many more um, women and girls from his time at the Dalton School and his time at Harvard. I think there's a massive amount of people who've never come forward beyond this 1,000+ group. And so that's something I would love to kind of pay attention to more as we get more information out of the files is this idea of young girls sort of going through this metamorphosis to becoming, a mini Ghislaine Maxwell and becoming more of an abuser. And how do we view that? Do we view them as an abuser? Do we say you're now on the level of this cold-hearted woman who's sitting behind the jail? Or do we recognize that they were still victims and that they were manipulated and brainwashed? And even as they pass their 18th birthday, what side of the coin do we see them on, right? Are they the victims or are they now the abusers? And how do we navigate that? That was my biggest takeaway.
I think that's a really big takeaway too, because that's a really tough question for some people, I think. Um, for me, I don't find it a tough question. I think they were abused and they were
Hmm.
victims and they were groomed into becoming abusers themselves, not
Hmm.
by choice, but by force. Um, and I don't think we should hold women like that or boys, if there are any who were involved in this too. I
Hmm.
don't think we should hold any of those kids accountable for the actions that they were forced to do and trained and groomed into. Like, you
Hmm.
don't, most people don't become abusers or like don't encourage further abuse unless they've become conditioned to it as like as the only acceptable form of love or
Hmm.
attention. And so no, I would I would hope there's enough empathy out there for people to understand that it wasn't by choice they did that.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we need to make sure that that is a message that comes out of all of
Hmm.
this is it's
Right.
you aren't to blame. You did nothing wrong. It's that whole blame the victim bullshit
Right.
is
Right. And it, yeah.
and
And he
and I
told
don't
them
like
that
it.
though. He told them
Yeah.
that. I mean, that was a threat that he told them was, if you say something, then you've been doing this too. You're going to go to prison too. So he knew very well what he was doing. Like he recognized that things he was doing was illegal. Um, but then that's just like the broader conversation of, how far does that go back? Are all abusers victims at some point? Is it always cyclical? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it was for Jeffrey Epstein. I think he was, I don't know. He's a very strange anomaly in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's something that would be very interesting because there are these women. One of them was was purchased from her parents from Eastern Europe, and she tried to disappear when she got to the US. She was 14. She disappeared for a while because she wanted to go out on her own. He got very angry. He told her he got a hold of her somehow, and he's like, you know what, I bought you from your parents. You are a sex slave. You have to come back. But eventually she stayed with him and she started becoming one of his assistants, right? Um, and so she has immunity and hasn't spoken up because there's this sense that they'll all go to prison too if they spoke up. I have a feeling somebody like a Sarah Kellen would have a lot of information about Epstein if she knew that she wasn't going to get in trouble for speaking about it. She would have a lot to say, but I also still think that she sides with him. I don't think she necessarily thinks he was a bad guy. She probably thinks he was misunderstood and that all these girls are just ungrateful. I don't know. I don't know her point of view. She's been very quiet.
Yeah.
Um, but I find that sort of foggy gray zone very interesting because there are people who don't recognize that they were abused. They don't recognize it yet because maybe and that that puts into question the life they came from. Was it that much worse that this was better? I don't know.
Yeah. Um, and I think we need to start promoting a culture where, at least for the criminal justice side, if you are a victim and you're willing to come forward and tell it your story, I
Hmm.
in cases like this, it's so easy to say they weren't victims a majority of the time. Or sorry, they
Yeah.
were victims a majority of the time.
Hmm.
Some of the time they were perpetrators because they were groomed
Hmm.
into it. They were abused into it.
Hmm.
And she may still be, like you said, you don't know her. I don't know her. I've never heard from her. I've never met her.
Hmm.
I've never talked to her. I don't know. I've never been in a psych eval with her. Like, I don't know what's going on in
Right.
her life. Like, maybe she's still in that cultish mentality
Yeah.
of the abuser is is always right. And it's really hard
Hmm.
to see that. I mean, we see it all the time in regular society too, in like
Yeah.
non-perverted society. We see this
Yeah.
type of abuse all the time.
It's like a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing, except for I think he didn't start off by abusing them. He started off by grooming them,
Yeah.
and he, for some he just whatever. But these were girls who had nothing, and he was offering them $200 a day, right? That's
Yeah.
everything. Especially back then, that was worth a lot of money. Um, Still worth a lot of money, but like back then, a lot more. Um, so I think they feel I think there's a lot of guilt about what role did I play in a lot of this because even still, I mean, people have come out after about Virginia Giuffre and been like, you introduced me to Jeffrey and showed me how to do this. Like you were the one who made me do this. And she's acknowledged that, but she's also acknowledged why that happened, and how she got there. And I think if more people were willing to come forward in the way that she did and be honest about what she was asked to do and then what she did do, I think objectively we could get a really good picture about how everything went down.
Yeah. And I think objectively too, that leads to an easier understanding of that they were all victimized in this and how they were
Hmm.
victimized throughout it. And it creates a clearer picture or
Yeah.
clearer picture of the network
Yeah.
itself, the who was involved, how did these girls get involved and then
Hmm.
continue to be involved? Why did some of them stay involved and others not? Um, I think
Hmm.
the purchasing of kids is one thing I'd love to get into with you at some
Hmm.
time. I know we only have 5 minutes here for today,
Yeah.
so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Um, outside of that big, um, sort of, I guess, almost revelation of it as maybe why so many aren't coming forward or haven't or are unwilling
Hmm.
to come forward. Um, what are some of the key places that you would, between now, say now and next week, while until we come back for our next episode, um, where do you think are the key places people should be looking in the birthday book
Yeah.
for things like this?
Okay, so you can get the birthday book I think if you just Google it, there's a Google Drive with the actual photocopied birthday book, or if you go to my Substack, I have it broken into 5 parts, and all the pages are numbered, so you know what page you're on. You can link it up and make sure you're on the same page, and they're free, so anybody can look at them. Um, Pay attention to page 62, roughly 61, 62 is kind of where they start writing these fictional stories about what they would do. This is him and his buddies in the 70s, I would say, early 70s. Um, and then pay attention to page 234 because 234 is a big one, and 234 is one that likely means Ghislaine Maxwell perjured herself in the interviews for something very big. So pay attention to that. Those are the two biggest takeaways. And then just overall, like the art, the things that like Leslie Wexner said, like everybody's sending him pictures of like somebody got him something called a tit print, where somebody had literally like painted their boob and pressed it against like paper and like sent it
Mhm.
to him and like framed it. I mean, it's just everything. The entire book is about women's bodies and sex, like the entire thing. And it's clear that this is the thing that was on their mind all the time. Like this was their social life. And like for somebody who's going down for a sex ring, you would think if somebody gave them a birthday book, it would be like, oh, we never expected this of him. Like, here's all the lovely letters from his family. No, all the letters are about sex and women and the things they did to women and like hanging out at the Tramp Club, which is where Virginia Giuffre said that she met Prince Andrew. And like all this stuff is in the birthday book. All this stuff that they have denied, it's all in letters from the 90s. So, or from the early 2000s. So, it's really interesting because this was not in the FBI files. This was in the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. This was one of his private things that they didn't even take, which also means that now that the people who run the estate, which is his lawyer and his accountant, are now willing to be bought, and they are willing to give things up for, certain deals, which is
Yeah,
big because there's a lot of stuff in the estate that if we're not going to get the FBI files for a while, the estate's got all the rest of it. So including the interviews he did with Steve Bannon. Those are in the estate. So there's a lot in there that we can get our hands on
I'd
that
like
is
to see
not
if we
run,
can
but
get those.
yeah, that'd be fantastic. I would do.
I'd like to see what's in those ones because Steve Bannon
Yeah,
is an interesting one, especially with the
yeah.
connections to the Groyper movement and the nihilism and the black pill shit that's going on, where people are literally going, it's the end, let's just kill everybody or kill ourselves, tear it all down sort of mentalities. Um, Steve Bannon's a
Femininine
huge part of
positive.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and he jumped into Epstein's circle real close to the end.
Hmm.
Obviously,
In a weird way.
I don't think Bannon had anything to do with Jeffrey's end. But I think he was hoping to get in with him for
Oh
things.
yeah. It was a weird thing in the end. He was just like buddy buddy with him immediately after the first, I mean, years after the first sex trial. And then all of a sudden you wanted to be best friends with him and interview him. And the intent of the interview was to teach him how to be better speaking with people, how to like not say sexy things all the time. Like it was like he was training him. And then after Epstein died, he switched his story and he's like, no, 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 I was really collecting evidence and I was gonna get that guy. And it's like, no, that's not
No.
that wasn't let's watch them and then we'll figure that out, right? Because
Yeah.
we have one small clip of Epstein from those videos. They've released one small clip, and it's him saying basically how much he supports the Time's Up movement, which was equivalent to the Me Too movement, which is just so horribly laughable that Jeffrey Epstein was in any way connected with the Time's Up movement is just it's silly. Yeah, it is what it
They're all liars. Yeah.
is. Yeah,
All a bunch of liars. And it's funny.
yeah,
It's very interesting that they tell the truth, though, in this
yeah.
book. And I'm glad we
I
have
didn't
it.
know.
I'm
I'm glad we
glad
have
we
it
have
too.
it. So,
Yeah.
this, everyone, it is 20 after. I promised we're going to get Ellie off and give her some time between her next show and this one. So,
Mhm.
please join Ellie in 10 minutes with Zev Shalev for another live with Ellie today. This will be, I think, her third this afternoon.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I got to go back to school night.
Oh, geez. So you're killing it. Good
Yeah.
luck with Zev tonight. Have a great show.
Thank you. All right.
Enjoy the
See you guys
time.
later.
Thanks, Ellie. See everybody
Yeah.
next week for
Bye.
another Powerful Voices.